This is the Khmer Times News. My name is Paolo Bonini, and these are your headlines. Cambodia under serious pressure from US tariffs. Drugs are discovered, but not by the kilo, by the ton. And an armed man carjacks a vehicle on the expressway. But firstly, there was no choice as to what the headline story was going to be. As soon as the financial tsunami hit, it took out the entire front page. It just rained stories about the US tariffs. Headlines like this. Secretary of State says US tariff hike on Cambodia not political and urges the public to remain calm. Also, Cambodia carefully reviewing shock US tariff increase up to 49% to ensure the Cambodian economy remains competitive. As well as Secretary of State, Cambodia is ready to raise reasons to protest the US. It was like a war broke out and everyone ran to their muster stations to shore up the defences. And my goodness, it was one huge opening salvo by the Trump administration, as Cambodia has been slammed by a massive 49% tariff. But interestingly, there's only one country that got a higher tariff, and that was Lesotho at 50%. Now, if you just said, what, Lesotho? I do not blame you. But it is an actual country in South Africa. And when I asked the internet what is special about Lesotho, it said, it's the only independent state in the world that lies entirely above 1,000 meters in elevation. Which means, basically, its unique selling point is it's more difficult to breathe there. Way to go, Lesotho. Now, Cambodia at number 2 in the tariff charts is indeed very worryingly, as Cambodia US exports reached $10 billion last year. And that $10 billion in exports is a huge 38% of all Cambodia's exports. So trade to the US is a very big deal. But why did the US slam Cambodia with such a huge tariff? A tariff that is only beaten by a country that is short on air. Well, it's a reciprocal tariff. For the USA says that Cambodia's tariffs on American goods, standing at 97%, but, that is strongly denied by the trade minister, who has come out to say it's only 29.4%. There is a huge trade imbalance. You see, the US takes in the $10 billion of Cambodia's goods, but the US only exports a paltry $264 million. And that's a very big difference. And it's that is upsetting the Trump administration. The Labour minister has reassured the garment industry is in fact safe, as current orders being processed were placed in advance in 2026 and 2027, and they are exempt from the new tariff. Also, European trade has been steadily rising. The jolly old Yanks say that Cambodia's tariffs on US goods is way too high. Now, whether it's 98% that they originally touted is yet to be defined. But to me, these tariffs are one huge dam that will seize the flow of water of finance. And the sooner any agreement is reached, the sooner the financial ecosystem can gain stability. And the river of money that nourishes both nations may flow both ways yet again. On this week's Crime Desk, an update on a son that slaughtered his father, the ungrateful bugger, an outrageous carjacking on the expressway that created terror, and drugs. Holy cow, have we got drugs. Let's get straight into this damn lunacy. Now, this one really got on my nerves. The headline read, "Police seek dangerous armed man after dramatic expressway carjack." Now, as was also noted there in that headline, there is also a video of this carjacking, which we will get to. But we need to rewind, as this lunacy did not start on the expressway. It all kicked off when two guys who are really rubbish at being criminals committed a robbery on National Road 4. They held up their victim with handguns and told him to hand over his valuables. But whilst the two robbers were waving guns around and screaming and shouting, witnesses unsurprisingly called the police. The police were very prompt and they soon arrived. Then the two men decided to double down on stupid. They fled the scene, but as they did so, they started to shoot at the cops pursuing them. For God's sake, you go from basic street robber and now you're rising to become a cop killer? This is idiocy without parallel. In the ensuing chase, one man was captured, and here he is being nicked. As they rolled him over, this man who had big balls, big enough to try and become a cop killer, was so frightened of the actual cops, he urinated his own trousers. Yep, who's the big boy now? But the other top-notch lunatic who levelled a gun at the police was still on the loose, and he decided to carjack a vehicle on the Sihanoukville Expressway. And amazingly, it was all caught on tape. Have a look at this.
So here we see the entire carjacking, and that's a word I've never ever used before in all the hundreds of reports I've ever done, was actually caught on dashcam. And we can see here that the carjacker is actually standing on the running board of the white Lexus. Now, it beggars belief that this is an expressway, but he's made his desperate move because he's already tried to shoot at the cops. That is the level of lunacy that is running through this guy's head. Now, what we want to do is go inside the car, and someone inside the car, quite amazingly, took a photo as all this terrifying incident was going on. And this is what we see. We've got this bearded man hanging off the car, waving a handgun at the family. I mean, I'm sorry, but this appalls me beyond appalls me. And as it goes on, we see that the family slowly, there's an awful lot of conversation. This video goes on a long time. I've cut it down for you. But we see finally that the car actually pulls over, and then the family gets out of the vehicle, and that is the absolute right thing to do. There's nothing more desperate and more dangerous than a lunatic like this carrying a handgun. And you want my money on this? I guarantee he's on drugs. I will guarantee it. The family does get out of the vehicle, and it even looks at one point that they're actually unpacking some of their kit out the back of the vehicle. I don't know why. And in the end, the driver actually does take control of the situation, and then he zooms off into the distance. But the question is, did he get away?
After assaulting the driver and taking the car, the police were soon back into the chase, probably as the idiot had left yet another load of witnesses, all who had mobile phones. And in this next pursuit, the thief crashed that car he had just taken. But then, very promptly, he carjacked a second vehicle. He then jumped from that second car after a short while, and he ran off down a side road. And he did get away. This case really does need to be solved, as anyone who is showing what can only be called an extreme level of violence needs to be put away for an awful long time. So if you know this person, please contact the police immediately. This one really is horrifying, but here we go. With this story, let us firstly look at the end of the road before we start at the beginning. You see, what I'm talking about is truly horrifying, and I want to show you pictures that really are worth millions of words. All the people you will see took methamphetamine. They took it to get a cheap fix, a cheap high. But trust me, meth is a brother trucker of a drug. It will destroy you. Take a look at these three who thought they could dance with the devil and they would escape. This lady, for instance, had all the promise in the world, but she decided to take meth. Take a moment to look at her. She could not be more middle-class America if she tried. But now, after taking up meth, she is destroyed. She now looks like this. Now, I know these photos aren't the best of quality, but that doesn't matter none. They clearly show you what this junk does to you, before and after. It is heartbreaking. Well, how about this? A young guy looking a bit of an athlete, I would bet. A hometown boy like so many. But now, with meth, he literally looks like a caged animal. And why is his mouth open like that? Well, that's due to what's called meth mouth. Your gums and your mouth literally rot, and your teeth fall out of your face. Finally, there is this lady. Again, not the best photo, but she looks like a regular lady in her middle age, one that you would see pushing a cart around the local supermarket. But when you add meth, this is what she became. I have honestly seen dead bodies that look better than she does. And let's be frank, these three are probably now dead due to their meth addictions. So why am I telling you this? Well, this week we saw yet another huge bust of meth. Drug busts are so very common, I don't often report on them. But this was another huge one. The headline read, 5 foreigners arrested with 100 kilos of meth. It is said that these 5 dealers in death were moving the dope through Cambodia to be transferred to a third country. The 5 arrested were 2 Burmese men and 3 Chinese men. The police arrested the men in Sihanoukville on the expressway, where we just saw that carjacking earlier. These merchants of death are now in jail. But remember this, unlike their users, they are in jail. They are not in the hell their victims are now condemned to. Gold. It's very highly valued by us humans, but it's in fact pretty damn useless. Until, that is, science found a use for this very soft yellow metal. Now it's an integral part of computers that power our modern lives. In fact, what makes gold so very amazing is gold is a really efficient conductor of electricity. And, quite incredibly, it will remain corrosion-free. And that makes it really desirable. Desirable enough for a headline like this. 1 dead, 8 injured in illegal mine collapse. 1 person has died and at least 8 others were injured after an illegal gold mine collapsed in Mondulkiri province. The man died in the most horrific manner. When the supports of the mine tunnel collapsed, he was buried alive. It is a terrifying way to die, but he died knowing that Cambodia has very good gold deposits. In just the past 3 years, 13,500 kilos of gold has been dug up. And that's worth an amazing $1.3 billion. So that young man who was buried alive and died a horrific death was chasing the golden seam of dreams. He is one of the millions stretching back thousands upon thousands of years who got gold fever. And some who catch it die in the most terrifying ways imaginable. It's time to have a look ahead and see what the weather has in store for us next week.
And here we are at the weather, and as is usual, here's my photo of the week, just to make the weather a bit more interesting. And we've got a kid with a box on his head. Now, this is just brilliant. I'm really, honestly, it's brilliant. But you've got to see through I don't know, what adults see, which is all very grey, is, there's this kid that was walking home from school with a big green box on his head. I swear to God, I was cycling along, I stopped, threw down the bike, got out the camera, took this photo, and I love the green path, you see, the cycle path he's on, because it makes it even more surreal. What did I do when I saw this kid apart from take his photo? Quite naturally, I shook his hand and said, "Well done. Brilliant." That's what being a child's about. Adults should do more stuff like this. I swear to God, it's what stops you being so dull, depressed, and bored. Now, let's leave the surreal alone and go to the very real, and that's the weather. But, oh, Jesus, hold on. It's not in the upright. Hold on. If I give it a firm stroke right there. Oh, my goodness. It's popped straight up, isn't it? And what do we see? I'm looking across the base here. Yep, okay, the highest I'm getting is 97 degrees. And the humidity's about in the same place. It's about the 50% mark. And the wind, well, that's little more than a breeze.
This has been the Khmer Times News. Please do subscribe and comment and stay up to date with all the breaking news by following us on both Facebook and Telegram. This has been Paolo Bonini, and that was the week that was. I'll see you next weekend for your weekly Roundup.